Red alert, code red. ChatGPT and other chatbots are apparently a quote-unquote code red for Google search business. Now, this is the New York Times article that we were talking about before that is going to be difficult to read because it is behind a paywall. So if you don't have a Times subscription, then the hack that I used to read it actually was to open it on Twitter and to activate reader mode, and I was able to get to the whole thing. So hopefully nobody from the Times is listening, because I would like to be able to continue using this hack without paying for the New York Times. But if anybody is able to gift us a link, I'll be happy to append it to the notes or add it to the notes and include it in here. But essentially, what we were saying in the last couple of weeks about Google having something ready to go is still true. And maybe it's not ready to leave the door, and certainly they are very hesitant about allowing it to. And this article goes into some of the reasons behind why. One of them, as I had mentioned, is that Microsoft had come out with a chatbot years ago, which I had forgotten the name, but they reminded me of it here, called Tay, probably a nod to Taylor Swift. If I had to guess. And that was a colossal disaster. And Facebook had their own chatbot, which was really not great. If you remember, Tay, back in the day, that rhymed, spewed racist, xenophobic, and otherwise filthy language and they were forced to immediately remove it from the internet, never to return. But essentially, what has apparently happened inside of Google is that Google's management have declared a quote-unquote code red. And this is, as the article says, akin to pulling the fire alarm. Some fear the company may be approaching a moment that the biggest Silicon Valley outfits dread, the arrival of an enormous technological change that could upend the business. And everybody knows Google's biggest business here is not workspace. It is not chat. It is search and search ads. And there are a lot of people saying that ChatGPT is that massive shift that is occurring. And there are a lot of people who say, it's not that big a deal. Yes, it is amazing and it's a technological breakthrough, but it's, a year and a half old in terms of its knowledge, and isn't necessarily going to take everything away from Google. In fact, there still is Wolfram Alpha, which is a very knowledgeable search engine for math and science. And at the time that came out, a lot of people were then saying as well, it's going to take a lot of search away from Google. Didn't really make that much of a dent, even though it is incredibly useful, especially for those who are in school. That being said, a couple of things that I found interesting that I thought I had remembered, but I wasn't sure. So thank you to the Times for confirming this. A lot of the infrastructure and the technology behind ChatGPT itself at OpenAI was actually developed by researchers at Google. And Google has what they call, I believe it's pronounced Lambda, but the language model for dialogue applications is something that we've heard about before.
I mean, AWS has this similar.
AWS has this as well.
They have a service called Lambda, but not like like LAMDA, which is when I read this. It was
capital
weird.
L, capital
lowercase
a, capital M,
capital D. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's not just Lambda,
anyways.
like AWS. Anyway, but this may ring a bell to many people because back in the summer, Google engineer Blake Lemoine, I don't know how that's pronounced, claimed it was sentient. For anybody who will remember the news back then, not true, but essentially we've gotten so good at chatbot technology that it's possible to really have a conversation. And that's where Google's advances start to actually shine here, is its abilities that we've seen in other products, which leads me into the other article that I have here, that Google has everything it needs to counter ChatGPT. Here's what it's already shown off. Have you ever had a conversation with your Google Assistant where you ask it a question and it replies and you ask follow-up questions? In fact, go ahead, Steve.
Not often. Was that a question for me? I thought you were asking me. I'm like,
the audience.
Not really? I mean, not very often, sometimes, but it's not very frequent.
So that's one of the things that really makes, virtual assistants amazing. And one of the things that really will help push that forward is their ability to do so. And MKBHD actually just released a video on YouTube testing all of the intelligence level of the virtual assistants that are out there. And one of the things he tested was how good is their ability to continue a conversation with follow-up questions. And Siri is useless at that. And I think Alexa also didn't score very well, but Google did fantastic because you can say, who was the which one was it? What number was he? 44th president of the United States was Obama, right? And so you can ask that, and then you can say, how tall was he? Where does he live? And it follow up questions, and it is able to take that context. And as they get more context, they will get more powerful. And that's where, search really is starting to go, where you're saying, okay, I'm trying to figure this information out, and it helps you get there. It's not necessarily just a chat bot. It's how that ability to translate and understand and conversate, with the knowledge that it's trying to give over, is really going to shine through. The problem being, and this is why Google has been so reluctant to put it out there, is the fact that, well, it's great, but it's not that accurate 100% of the time. And when it doesn't know, it just guesses. And that's a problem when you are trying to be a very, very accurate search engine and say that you've got all the answers. And Google has spent a lot of time and a significant amount of money trying to perfect that and get it so that they are really accurate and near instant in getting that information. And so they've not necessarily perfected search, but they're close. And so in order to get chatbots to the point where it would be overhauling Google search, it's going to be a little while. That being said, with this Code Red, Sundar Pichai is basically declared all hands on deck for this, and I quote here, has upended the work of numerous groups inside the company to respond to the threat that ChatGPT poses. And this is according to a memo and an audio recording. I imagine it's a Google Meet recording that they have obtained from Google, saying that employees have also been tasked with building AI products that can create artwork from other images. Sound familiar? Like DALL-E, and other projects that they expect to be announced at Google's conference coming in May. So the next I/O should be a lot of fun, with a whole bunch of projects that they're going to announce and probably not actually release for another year and a half, because that's what happens when you rush these things out the door. And the last point that I will add to this, because I've already said quite a bit about this whole topic in the last couple of weeks, and here is the fact that I am now a little bit concerned, because in the past, historically, every time Google declares a code red over something, not necessarily with the words code red, but moves all hands on deck to change focus and move in a different direction really quickly, Google Workspace seems to suffer. Anybody remember a little thing called Google Plus? You know who built that? Google Voice engineers. And you know what product was delayed for years because they were too busy building something else? Google Voice. And so I'm really hoping that Workspace has grown to the point here where it is a big enough business item for Google, and they take it seriously enough that they will not be ripping out some of the best minds in the Workspace side of things and dedicating them over to the AI projects, but instead dipping into the massive pool of talent that they have from all of the projects that they shut down, whether it was from the what do you call it, the Area 120 or other moonshot projects, and reassigning those people into working on this Code Red initiative, other than, because they did say that they would be reorganizing most of them into the company. I'd rather that they are able to bring people from those projects than to put another dent in Google Workspace, especially because we've got such wonderful momentum going this year. So hopefully we'll continue that momentum into the new year and have both consumer fun features rolling out, as well as the more, I won't say necessarily more important, but more interesting to a lot of the admins listening here, the business and enterprise focused features.